Are you ready, bud?
You gonna run around?
Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first video, our first full-length video. This is Cretaceous Critters. My name is Sean,
And I'm Erin.
and today we are going to be talking about this little guy. His name is Mirage. He is almost a year-old Savannah monitor, and he is really into climbing right now. So about 3 or so months ago, we got a question on TikTok. How do we go about taming a guy like this? As you can see, he's very happy to be out with us, pretty well socialized, at least with us. Um, we're still working on getting him kind of socialized with the general public. We take him out for walks and all that kind of stuff. But somebody was asking what the kind of processes we went through to get a little lizard like this when he was a lot younger to be a lot happier with being held. So obviously, when you have a reptile or any animal for that matter, the kind of number one priority, if you want them to be like a significant part of your life, like this, is to get them to be socialized so you can handle them, work with them a lot easier. Like you don't want a dog snapping at you every time you try to go feed it. You don't want this guy to whip you every time you open his cage. You don't want any kind of food aggression, all that kind of stuff that you would really associate with any pet. Uh, you just want to work that out of them. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the ways we kind of went through, socialized him, got him really used to all this stuff that we do to him. We touch him, we put him wherever we want. We can literally, he will not let go, but we can do whatever we want to this guy, and he will not, in any capacity, retaliate. So, what was our number one thing that we did?
Food. So
Yeah.
he was very afraid of our hands when we first got him, but he was extremely food motivated. So we would put our hands in his enclosure uh, while we had his food near. So he'd have to get used to our hands being in the enclosure while uh, with a positive reinforcement. And as well, we also put our socks in there to get him used to our smells.
That was kind of probably the number one thing we did was we put any article of clothing that has your smell, whether it be your socks, especially because you're constantly wearing socks, and a lot of your smell is gonna come off in sweat and all that kind of stuff. Just really anything you wear throughout like an entire day and do any sort of activity in, that's gonna be the best way for them to get used to you, your scent, kind of just your existence. Another really good way we did was we have his enclosure in our main room. So anytime he would be awake and we're in the area, he'll see us walking through to get to the kitchen, to the bathroom, just in and out of the house. He got exposed to kind of everything that happens so that he's not surprised by, let's say, a door opening or the lights turning on and off. It kind of just limits that fear factor that they might have when something that they are unaware of will happen. So those are probably our number one and two when it comes to getting an animal at least used to your presence. And that's way before you even start working with like handling or anything, because the most important thing is they need to learn that you are not a threat. And the way to get there first is they need to be introduced to you before you start playing with them. So kind of tying into that, once you kind of start getting them used to your scent, your smell, your presence, the next thing we kind of went into was getting into his space without being too invasive. So in the background, you're gonna see videos of us just with this door open, and we're gonna be kind of like in his enclosure, but not trying to touch him or like intrude upon his space any more than reasonably can be expected from him. So, um, like a really good way, once you kind of get past the whole introductory period of they know your smell, they know your presence, they know what you are. Way we kind of worked on getting him used to like our hands or just our faces is you kind of sit next to his enclosure with the door open, and I would just lean my hand on it, like on the door frame right here, and he would be able to come up and smell on your hand and know what you are and know you're not a threat because you're in his enclosure, but you're not like trying to grab him or anything. You're not trying to antagonize him in any way. You're just letting him know what you are and kind of come up to you at his own pace. So once we kind of started doing that a lot more, we saw a big improvement in his responsiveness to our like taking him out. So it was like we don't know if he was wild caught or not because he came from a pet store. Uh and pet stores kind of just take in anything from uh people who might be selling sometimes. So we found him there. He was actually the larger of his siblings, and they kind of let us know he was the bully to them. So he was off on his own. He was separated, and I don't know. She really liked him, so we decided he was going to be the one for us. And right off the bat, you could tell. I mean, it's kind of the same with any baby animal. They were super skittish around humans. Same with like a brand new dog or something, a puppy. They really don't want to be grabbed or anything. They don't want to be touched because they don't know what that means. So the first few months were a kind of break-in period with him where it was more we wanted to handle him, but we didn't want to handle him too much that it would stress him out. So a lot of it was us sitting next to the cage, or we have our couches right next to the cage, so we would sit there, and he would often come up to the edge of the cage and kind of look at us while we were just sitting on the couch watching TV, doing anything. So that was kind of like that was the next step in getting him more acclimated to touch, but not full handling. When he made it known that he was getting more okay with being handled, then we started introducing food as a motivation. So a lot of times with obviously any animal that you need to eat, and especially with reptiles that depend on you so much for food, as in with dogs you can leave their food on in their bowl, but with reptiles you really need to, at least if you want them socialized, tongue feeding, hand feeding is kind of really the number one way to get your reptile to trust you. Once we kind of got through the whole break-in period of uh, like introducing him to hands and smell and all that, then it was kind of time for us to try tongue feeding and hand feeding because that was the ultimate step up where you can tell that whether or not they're going to respond well to handling or not. There are some animals we have that you can tongue feed them, and you can tell when they're tongue feeding that they are not going to be in any way friendly enough to handle. If you don't work with these animals right off the bat, it is extremely hard for them to learn one to trust humans and two to trust uh, humans that aren't their immediate caretaker. With him, you could see that the process was coming along, even if it wasn't the fastest. The thing with monitors is they're not like dogs, they don't have the same mammalian capacity to process thoughts, but they're also not as, I guess, slow processing as like a crested gecko or a leopard gecko. So there's definitely levels to like intelligence in the reptile world. And when it comes to just overall smarts, monitors are probably number one just because in their environments they have to deal with a lot more threats. So just in his world, he's from Africa in the wild. They have large predatory birds, depending on where they decide to be from. They have large cats, they have wild dogs. Just really, they have a lot of predators that are out to get them, so they kind of have to work around intelligence to keep them alive, really. So in captivity, the intelligence really comes out a lot more when you compare them to something like a leopard gecko. And that is kind of the way you have to approach socializing and acclimating them to human contact. You have to. It really is kind of like you're training a dog or a cat to get used to your presence. Once we got past the whole touching stuff, tongue feeding, and then when he was ready to get past tongue feeding, we had a playpen that we got from someone when we picked up an enclosure, and what we found was, and I a lot of other people preach this as well, like Bob Bledsoe with Green Room Pythons. A really good way to socialize these animals is to put them in a playpen with a bunch of different stuff. Like I would put my shoes in there. We would put towels and blankets and just really like anything that introduces a new smell to them. Uh, just gives them new experiences. It makes their mind work, and it alleviates the fear and pressure they might have that everything in the outside world is out to get them. So what we would do is every day or every 2 days when we would feed them, we would take them out, put them in a playpen, and we would do our tongue feeding in there. And eventually, when we could tell his tongue feeding was going fine and he was really more worried about his environment, we introduced like a puzzle kind of.
It's a cat puzzle feeder.
Yeah, so we'll put this in the background as well, but we you would put like little pieces of fish or mealworms under these little,
Leaves.
yeah, under these fake leaves where he would have to kind of problem solve and move the food with his nose, and like he'd be able to smell everything obviously because they have an insane sense of smell, but he has to go on his own instead of us feeding him the food. Now he's in his own environment and he's problem solving to find where the food is, how he has to move these individual pieces to find the food. And we wouldn't put food in every kind of container because that would make it too easy, right? So we would put food in different places and he would have to sniff out the food and then figure out how to unlock the food. And that was kind of a game changer for him because now he knows that we don't mean any harm when we take him out. We provide him food, we provide him safety and shelter, but now we are also providing him with the experience of being outside of his cage and also getting food and also problem solving so that his mind is constantly working. So now he's thinking about food, he's thinking about his enclosure and his environment and us and anything that could scare him. So we would still be walking around the house while this is all happening. It would really be like he's got so many stimuli and he's fine with it. So the playpen was really like the game changer, honestly. Once we noticed that we'd be able to take him out in the original, like in the beginning, he used to kind of still struggle when we would take him out to put him in the playpen. But once he was in the playpen, he was kind of fine. Yeah, once he was in the playpen, he would be like totally fine because he knows he would have food. But eventually, sometimes we would put him in the playpen with no food, and then he would just be in there finding smells and stuff. So that was truly the game changer, and what made the difference of him being really scared and not wanting to come out versus like what you see right now. Now we literally take him outside, we take him for walks. I'll put up pictures of and videos of him in a harness. He is like he literally is just a little cat, but a foot and a half long and a lizard. So yeah, he the kind of training techniques are not too unorthodox when it comes to like monitors. I guess the whole, like if you wanted to follow like nerds kind of step by step process, you kind of got to work with them when they're babies. So you need to get them when they're young, or else it's going to be kind of hard to work with them and train them to be something like this. But obviously, it's extremely rewarding because we can take him out. He can run around the house. He kind of knows when and when not to poop, but I don't know. That's kind of hit and miss with them. But more or less, they're very, I wouldn't say easy to train, but straightforward to work with. We have a lot of other monitors, and one of them being a Nile monitor, Megatron. Anybody who's like friends with us, fans of the channel, know that Megatron was kind of our first animal or our first monitor, which is kind of an insane thing to say. A Nile monitor is the first monitor, but that also kind of started us off on a slightly higher footing because we also figured out how to work with him to get him to be at least somewhat socialized for an Nile monitor. And obviously, he's still a work in progress. They're all going to be work in progresses as long as they live because, no animal's automatically going to like you. and always like you if you don't provide them with what they need. But once you kind of work with some of the tougher animals, then you get something like this guy who are notoriously easy to handle and socialize, and it kind of just becomes a lot more straightforward. So yeah, hopefully this it's a really long-winded answer to your question, and yeah, I tried to lay it all out in a step by step. So really, it comes down to like if you put them in steps, it's going to be like step one is going to be introduce them to your smell, introduce them to your presence. Step two is going to be introduce them to food and also your hands. So they need to know what you are, that you're not a threat. And then after that, step three and onwards is going to be more like getting them used to being outside of their enclosure while also exposed to you and the environment. And that is kind of there's no set time. Like some people on Facebook, some people seem to have trouble with these guys for I don't know. They could be a year on and they're still bad. We got kind of lucky with him. He was more or less like this when he was 6 months old. But I think it comes down to how much time you put in and also how much obviously effort and genetics. Like we don't know if he's wild caught, but if he is wild caught, he's a very good wild caught baby. And then some wild caught babies could be atrocious. Megatron, we think is captive bred because we got him at a show and we got him from a breeder, and they told us he hatched. So obviously he is captive bred, but we don't know anything about his parents. So sometimes you just get lucky with these guys, and it looks like so far he's a great baby. It really just does come down to how much time and effort you put in, and sometimes you just get a really lucky baby. So yeah, they are definitely a lot of fun to work with, and obviously a lot of fun to have as pets. When he's bigger, we plan on letting him free roam a lot more. Obviously, he's literally just a year old, so he's like a foot, so he's not really big enough to run around the house all yet. But that will be the plan eventually, and yeah, at that age and at that point, we're kind of just gonna treat him like a dog that needs heat. Hopefully that answered your question. A 20-minute video for a quick little TikTok comment, but we wanted to kind of one make a video like this because we have, at least in our eyes, an exceptionally well socialized Savannah monitor, and I'd also like to do something with Megatron in the same vein where we can demonstrate where a a Nile monitor is a lot different than a Savannah monitor when it comes to socialization and intelligence, and it just helps people that one are interested in getting an animal like this. We want to be able to put out content where we can help them kind of understand what they're getting into and the steps that you're going to need to kind of make it successful. And then two, we just want to make more content for you guys because obviously we really enjoy the reptile hobby. We enjoy our reptiles. We love our reptiles, all of them, and we really like to share our reptiles with all of our friends, all of our community. So yeah, we plan on doing a lot more videos like this. We're gonna be moving into a new house with a lot more space and probably a lot better for a filming setup. One thing I really want to do is I have a whole yellow anaconda video planned out. My son Lockdown is a is a he's almost a 4 foot yellow anaconda. He just turned a year old, so we kind of want to do a video like that. If you guys have any suggestions, or if anybody in our Discord has any suggestions, we really want you guys to let us know in the comments in our Discord, just to see if we can do content like this to help you guys out and really just to help move the reptile industry forward, because there's a lot of misconceptions in the reptile industry, obviously, because people who have a regular dog or a cat more often than not don't know much when it comes to a little lizard like this. So yeah, any way we can kind of forward the hobby and just get more of this content into the mainstream, the better. So hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.